Thank you for tuning in on Cop with Comic. I'm Brian Koppen. We're here with comic Ben Pernick. Ben Pernick, how the hell are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, good. Doing so good. Thank you so much for coming on and let people know where they can find your funny. I know I follow you online. You are Ben Pernick on Instagram, but also on Twitter. It's interesting because you are music therapy guy.
Oh, actually, well, that's my professional one, and then I'm Benjamin Pernick. That's the one where I write about baseball and do more comedy. I tried to get Ben Pernick for that too, but somebody else is wording it. That's how it goes sometimes. So
those Benjamin Pernicks, man, they can be a real bummer. Yeah. So is it okay that I mentioned your professional one?
Oh yeah, I mean that's fine. I haven't really used that one so often, so okay. I don't mind that at all.
Okay, so you do music therapy as a day job, but you're also a musical comedian. You have Bad Juju on Bandcamp.
Yep, Bandcamp, Spotify, and all those other platforms.
So us Gentiles, we can't be like Jews, but we can be like Juju. Juju's fine, right? Jew.
Exactly. You can call us Jews too. I think it's all about the intonation. If you say it like Jews, then it's like, okay.
But we could say, even pleasantly, I could say bad juju, right? It's like, he's a bad juju. And as long as I say it without the intonation, it's like, it's even better than saying it plural. Juju just sounds like a fucking candy. I think it is.
Yeah, or sweet.
Yeah. So when did you come out with Bad Juju, and what went into it? Like what, it's really difficult to do musical comedy because you need almost a new joke every refrain. And so it takes a lot of work to kind of bang out these 5 songs even. So tell us kind of what was the writing process, and when did you know you were done, and what's worthy of your time? Not only, crafting, the chords and the song and things like that, the arrangement, the instrumentation, but also coming up with new lyrics every hook.
That's a great question. I mean, so it kind of had been a long time. So this was my first comedy song album, and I've been writing these like comedy songs for, I would say, like 5 to 6 years. One of the songs, which is the one that I made the music video of, the Chosen People. I actually had written that one probably like, I think 5 years ago, and I had been performing it live a lot, but it took a lot of work. Sometimes there were like some lines that were really like hitting and then some that weren't, and I was trying to keep rewriting it, swapping out this line for this line and switching things around until I was finally like satisfied and basically felt like I couldn't make it better, because I kept having this like kind of fear that like, okay, I'm going to make the studio, recording of it, and then I'm going to realize that there's like a version, that there's something that, or a joke that I didn't think of. And be like, So it took a while, because I mean, part of it was just the whole financial thing of like, I think when I finally decided I wanted to make an album and I had enough songs that I was really confident in, it still took a little while longer, where for a while I had like a friend who said, oh, I'll do it for free. Like, but then he kept trying to like change all my stuff. I'm like, I've been working on this for a while. You've never come to see my comedy shows, so I don't value your opinion that highly.
You were the free friend, not the opinion I value.
Yeah, but I have a good friend in the music comedy world, Rob Paravonian, who's a veteran doing this for a long time. I think like way back when he opened for Carlin. Yeah, one of those like first comedy music viral people. Wow. But he's in Brooklyn, and he has a studio where, he's just able to do once I decided, okay, I'm going to just front some money and have him produce it, everything just like boom, 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 just like worked with me. And I was like, oh my God, why didn't I like wait a year to
Yeah, once the siren song of free turns out to be, you know, a boat run aground, you're like, holy shit, I can actually get the best in the business for a reasonable price, and he's not going to change all my jokes. That was probably the first thing he said. He's like, dude, I'm not going to change your jokes. Like,
Yeah.
I've had people who've tried to change my shit, and I hate it. I will not try to change your jokes. But you just figured out that you had stuffed all the funny in. And was your nightmare, did it turn out to have any truth? Have you woken up in the middle of the night being like, oh shit, there was a perfectly rhyming joke that was better than the one I put in there? Or are you pretty happy with having stopped when you did?
I think I'm pretty happy with having stopped when I did. I mean, I do have a tendency to like always, I have kind of an obsession with writing new stuff. So in a way, it was kind of just nice to close the book on these songs, being like, okay, I can now try to focus on my next album. But for these ones, the deal is sealed.
Yeah, I love that. You're like, dude, man, thank God I just fucking published that thing. Now I can move the fuck on, create new stuff finally, and not try to tweak the old stuff. Because the world has kind of changed recently, so it's good you did. And I guess my question is, now that I see you doing musical comedy on Instagram and things like that, are you, because you're able to churn fresh stuff out fairly quickly and it's timely and it's topical and things like that, do you find yourself being like, do I even need my production values to be that high anymore? Now that I'm banging these things out, and it's almost like the standard across the board for everybody, celebrities on down to the a local comedian or something, like, because standards are lower now, do you think you can get away with maybe churning, maybe recording an album every month or day or every 6 months or something, because you're just writing so prolifically on Instagram and people are liking it?
I really think that I've always kind of been more in the camp of like, it's better to just churn stuff out than to try to like write the perfect song with the perfect quality. I mean, obviously, ideally you can have both. And there are those people where it's like the same day some like news story breaks, they have like a whole music video all produced. But with me, I'm like, I prefer, even if it's not like, doesn't get the biggest traction, I think just for me as a comedian and musician, just to know that I can take something and turn it into something that I can share with everybody very quickly, I think is my preferred way of going about things. I mean, way back when, before I got into comedy, I actually did webcomics.
Mm-hmm.
But there was only one problem. I can't draw for. Are we allowed to swear? Well,
oh please do. You can't draw. For shit.
Yeah, I can't draw for shit.
Huh?
No,
you got to be able to resolve that phrase, man. You can't draw for shit. You got to say it like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I drew with Microsoft Paint, but but still, like, it kind of became. At first, I would get all these like, oh my god, the art is so terrible. I could tell with the pixels, but like then I ended up getting some of my comics ended up getting on like the front page of Reddit, and it's like they weren't well drawn, they didn't take long, but sometimes I had a bunch of ideas and things that didn't go well, but then you never know, or sometimes you just have the right joke or the something, and it doesn't matter that it was drawn in like under an hour if it resonates.
Yeah, and so I love that you kind of figured out from your Reddit experience that it's better to kind of churn it out and worry about production quality, that if you just like, I want to get this material down so I can move the fuck on. So, I mean, is any of this stuff that's kind of, getting traction or whatever, is it ever going to end up on a new album? Like, what's the role of an album now these days, now that kind of, I mean, Instagram is kind of the place to put, viral shit, and maybe Bandcamp is less traffic than it used to be.
Yeah, I think albums are not as necessary as they were, because it's true that like I think it was kind of funny. I was expecting a lot more like hype from the album, but one of the positives was that it kind of forced me in trying to promote the album. I ended up churning out more content because it was just motivating in that way, where people kind of were like a little more engaged.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's necessary. I think especially if you're able to, I mean, even like look at like TikTok, it's like if you can just like churn out videos and content and build a following.
Yeah.
it's probably a better model.
Yeah, they appreciate. They're like, I appreciate the fact I can fire up, Ben Pernick on Instagram or on TikTok or whatever, and get some new, fresh take on today's events. And I know it's going to be funny, and I know it's going to be catchy and get stuck in my head. Like, what's been your experience with TikTok? Like, are you getting some traction there?
To be honest, I mean, it's funny because I mentioned TikTok, and I really haven't taken advantage of that platform enough yet. But like, as basically, I haven't transferred any of my stuff there. But I think it is, so often there's like, even with podcasts, it's like at first people are like, oh my God, everyone has a podcast. And then there's still a window of like years where you could still start on, it wasn't as saturated as people thought. And I think TikTok's kind of the same way, where people are like, oh my God, like you're not going to be on TikTok, all right? But then before you know it, everyone's on TikTok. So it's like you got to sometimes make that leap. And I think that's probably one of the things that I'm going to be starting soon, is trying to have more, like short form content for TikTok. Because I think it's, before I felt like I needed to have things that were like, like a full 3-minute comedy song. And then I realized, especially with like some ideas, like I've recently been working on these projects kind of like snippets, where it's like, if you're doing like a parody, it only needs to be like a minute long. After a certain point, it's like, especially with comedy songs, like, you want the big punch, but like the longer it goes, it tends to work against you, unless you can really find a way to keep the song interesting.
Oh yeah, if you can keep it a minute long, you just need to have kind of a verse worth of punches and a chorus worth of punches, and then cut it off, because people will assume, hey man, everything else would have been this good, and you're like, no, it would not have.
Yeah, exactly.
The next 4 funniest jokes were not as funny as the first 4. And yeah, even like, I think Gabe Nathans had this fucking funny video where he was just I think the video was titled "The Guy Who Salutes" as a dance move, and it was just him dancing, and then every once in a while he would salute, and I'm like, that is fucking hilarious. Like, I didn't even know I needed that comedy. And so like a unique voice can still just make somebody's day, even if, and other of my, comic guests were retweeting it because it was just so fucking funny. And so if that's, like being able, and short, because I want to watch the whole thing, but I don't want to watch 3 minutes of it. And so, like if you do make the leap over into shorter stuff, does it behoove you to try to do it via the Instagram Reels or whatever its competitor is to TikTok, knowing that it'll be around for longer?
I think that could, as far as like the whole like political situation of TikTok or whatever, is that what you mean when you say like that it'll be around for longer?
Oh yeah, and I guess they finally reach a deal? Did Oracle finally buy out some of TikTok, or no?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. It sounded like they're not, whatever attempt to close down TikTok didn't seem to be put on hold, at least.
But, yeah, and it might be illegal too. I think one judge said it might be illegal, but I think all they're worried about is the fact that, yes, like these people will collect all data, but then if you're based in China, you're forced to turn over your data to the Chinese government, and so any data that, TikTok has on all its users could be forced to be turned over to the Chinese Communist government or whatever, which seems to be less than ideal. But yeah, Trump is always overstepping his bounds, and to the extent somebody like Oracle steps in and makes sure. I
doubt it's his top priority right now.
He does have other priorities, and that brings us to the topic that we can talk about real quick, which is, speaking of churning out fresh content, now that the internet has turned so fucking dark, just because it's so polarized, like how does a musical comedian kind of make his way? You can't really straddle both sides, but you don't want to piss everybody off. Like, what's the fine line that you walk to make sure that your content can get out there and not just turn a whole segment of the population off? Because as Michael Jordan said, Republicans buy sneakers too.
Even though I think more recently he kind of did backtrack on that.
It's like, well, everybody bought my sneakers for decades, so I might as well, give $100 million to Black Lives Matter, etc.
Yeah, I don't think he can, with all the money he made, I think he'll be.
It seemed to be a good move for a while, but now that he's got a big old pile of money that he can build, 10 houses out of, I think it's time to give a little bit back.
Exactly. Wait, what was the question again?
Just how does the musical comedian, like we see you if your potential fan sees you trying to play a moderate in your musical comedy, that can be a turn off. but you also don't want to get too right or too left, because then you're, potentially alienating a whole segment of the population who could be into your musical comedy. So how do you kind of walk that line?
I mean, I'm okay with alienating some people. They're gonna, like,
Right,
let's face it,
yeah,
there are
choose your
some
enemies
people.
wisely. Yeah.
Yeah, there are some people who are just not going to like a, you know, some Jewish comedian who sings and uses puns quite frequently. But
Those are the guys who say Jews. That's the intonation you're speaking with.
right, exactly. Well, it was funny with that song originally. So like I had like a fellow comedian like at an open mic just like say something. I gave him like a light heckle saying that he I'm not realizing he was a comedian. That saying that he looks like Macklemore. Not that's not so bad. And then he was like, oh, they should have exterminated all the Jews, including you, or something like that,
My
when he got on
Lord.
stage. And I was like, whoa, okay, that is not a fair tit for tat.
Yeah.
So like,
Even
I
the
don't know.
audience must have been taken aback at that viciousness.
Yeah, a little bit, but like not as much. Like I think they thought he was joking, except I followed him on social media, and I was like, oh no, like he was like, I think. Like a firefighter, just like posting all these like not that I mean that sounds like a positive thing, but then it was like, yeah, I'm a firefighter, so I can say whatever I want because I'm a hero. But then his actual views were like really shitty.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, he probably is legit anti-Semitic. So I wanted to do like a song like attacking that, but that was like, I was like, there's no way to do that without being preachy. But then, so for a while, it was just marinating in my head. And then it's just like, what if I just like leaned into the conspiracy theories? And I think that was part of like what made that song, The Chosen People, kind of more like resonate with more people. Whereas like you really kind of couldn't tell, like I was making fun of Jewish people, but in a way that was like ridiculous enough that it was like, you kind of couldn't be sure where I stood.
Yeah.
And I think
so were they unsure the entire song, or did you just have to make sure you dialed it up to 10 so they were certain pretty, they were comfortable laughing at what you were saying because they know you weren't being anti-Semitic?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I ever dialed it up to 10,
Okay.
but maybe like as the song goes on, I definitely like dial it up, but like never dial it up so much, the more I dial up but a conspiracy, the more I dial up just like how ridiculous it is. Like saying that there's like we have a Fort Knox of baby foreskin that fuels our doomsday device.
Yes, because it's an art. I mean, like, if you get too obvious, it's no longer subtle and funny. Like, you want to be able to laugh at something a little bit subversive and to think I'm in on the inside joke. That's part of the fun. And so if you make it too obvious, it's like every person trying to hack away at Ben Pernick's fucking audience. I mean, they're just going to be so obvious. But fucking, when we want smart, funny comedy, we go to Ben Pernick, and we know that. When's kind of your next thing coming out? Like, how often are you releasing funny shit on Instagram at Ben?
I think it's been like in the whole quarantine time, it hasn't been as consistent, but like now I've kind of like laid down the groundwork where I want to churn out at least a video a week. Sometimes more often than that, but for a while, like, I had some, after the album, a little bit of writer's block, and now I kind of hit my stride more, and now it's just transitioning from having all the written songs to actually just like, and turning it into videos, not just like ones of me playing a guitar or something, but.
Oh, so you're trying to actually kind of act out the videos more than just kind of doing front-facing videos?
I mean, I had been doing front-facing videos. That was kind of like my main style of doing it, but it seemed that if I can really make it more, just like, even if it's like basically taking like selfie videos of just like me in random places with the song in the background, just something that's a little adds more of an interesting visual component. I always kind of feel that it can definitely help. I mean, so for a recent song, I like kind of on what you were talking about. I basically had a song that sounded like a country song and like was all about patriotism, but drinking bleach, back So like that was one of those songs where I was like, I need to churn everything out right now because it's in the news. So I like wrote the whole song. I like recorded it all. I like put together like a video and just had it like and sent it out all within like 24 hours because I was just like, sometimes you just need to know that time, you know, for some things time is limited and you just gotta put everything together right away, even if you like forget to eat or sleep.
Oh yeah, because even I mean the Bleach jokes, they were, you know, they're fast and furious for 24 hours, and so even if you wait 24 hours, there's going to be 24 hours worth of Bleach jokes before they hear yours. So I mean, as long as you know it's fresh and it's the 10th, you know, it will work as the 10th joke people hear because it's so original. You know, it's a good thing that you're putting a 24-hour time clock on it. And I guess so. What you're saying, we were doing so many front-facing videos, you're like, I'm worried that people will think this is a little bit tired and they might get sick of looking at me, so let me try to set it. But then, you know, when looking at the screenshot, it's like, I also want to know that this is a video of your music. You know, like I don't, you know, if it's a picture of you and a wife or something like that, it's like, well, if I fire this up, is this, you know, like looking at the still, how do I know that this is him performing with his song in the background or something, unless I see him with a guitar? And so it can kind of work both ways, I would think.
Yeah, that's true. And I try to think of like, you know, so when I got I've only had one music video done, but after how well it did, I'm like, okay, there's clearly a secret sauce there. And like, it did not take a lot of, okay, it took some money, but not that much preparation for the music video. It was like, I basically showed up at my friend's apartment with a bunch of Jewish like paraphernalia, props and stuff because my dad's a rabbi. So I just like, I was just like, hey dad, I'm just gonna like come into temple and like leave with a ton of your shit, but don't worry, I'll bring it back.
Yeah, there's
some
thieves at our church that did the same thing, but they didn't bring it back.
Oh.
But I love that. Dad, I'm just going to steal your shit. I'll give it right back. And so, like, did that have more success because was it on IGTV? Because I see some of these stats on IGTV, you know, Instagram Live or whatever the fuck it is. Like, it seems the stats almost seem to be higher. Why is that? And was your video on IGTV? And does that account for its increased popularity or no?
I think for me, it seemed that most of the traction, and I think it's just like everyone has their certain platforms where they just, for whatever reason, have a little more clout. And for me, it's Facebook has been my main. I mean, that's where I'm posting most of. Instagram, I kind of consider as a supporting one. I mean, part of that's probably just because I'm an old millennial, like not with the times, but like I just have a bigger, when I post something on Facebook, it just tends to get more traction. So yeah, I posted on Twitter and like IGTV too, but Facebook was where it was like getting shared like wildfire, like all my friends and everything were like sharing it with their friends.
Oh, nice. Is that just via your personal Facebook personal page, or do you have a professional page too? Like, were they sharing it via your personal Facebook?
No, I just shared it like organically through Facebook.
On your personal account? On
my personal account.
And then they shared it wherever the fuck they wanted to. Well, that's cool, man. Yeah, it sounds like you really need to start with a niche. And so if you have friends who are just like, yes, you're hitting the nail on the head, then you know that others in the community, like if they're a sampling of the Jewish community, it's like the Jewish community as a whole is going to buy into it. And of course, other people are going to be like, holy shit, like, I'm not a Jewish person, but if they're saying this is funny, I'm going to fire it up because this will kind of give me a gist of what's funny in that community. So it sounds like you got your fucking finger on the pulse. And so we follow you everywhere. You're Benjamin Pernick on Instagram and you're Ben Pernick on, Ben Pernick on Instagram, Benjamin Pernick on Twitter.
Yeah. And also Ben Pernick on Facebook.
And that's
so like still uses that terrible I'm like, oh, why I was like, oh, I wish I had more of traction on Instagram so I could delete Facebook. And I'm like, wait, Instagram's owned by Facebook. So
yes. They're rewarding your loyalty to Facebook. So yeah, stay loyal to Facebook, they'll stay loyal to you on Instagram. So I love that. So we'll look out for the next Bad Juju. I mean, I know, maybe your albums won't come out, as fast and furious as your online content, but you're the man to watch because you're smart and you're funny and you're going to teach me about Judaism. Yeah, I'm going to learn. As a Gentile, I need to know about all these things.
Well, that's for me. I mean, that's what's really fun because like my whole family is like much more religious than me. You know, it's like my dad is Reformed, my brother and sister are now Orthodox, and I'm just in it for the food. So,
But also with songs like Granola World, and yeah, give us a short list of things that you're singing about that are not Jewish.
yeah, because actually
Granola.
it's kind of funny because like everyone thought the whole album is Jewish. I'm like, no, really, just the first song. Granola World was just about. I used to live in Northampton, Massachusetts for a while, and so it was just kind of like poking fun of the whole kind of like hippie culture. But yeah, then what was Self-Preservation is a song about a scheme that I once had to donate to sperm banks and why I ended up deciding against it. For a Friend was another. I guess I'm kind of a schemer. I mean, it must be my Jewish background, but yeah, I'm trying to think what were the other. For a Friend was based on basically me having an idea when I first moved to the city, being so lonely that I was like, maybe I should just try to like go on Grindr just to make some friends and try to avoid actually hooking up with anyone.
Yes, because I mean, are you straight or no? I think I see some women on your Instagram.
Oh yeah, no, I am straight, even
Because
though
that's even
many people
funnier.
that they don't believe me. But
But that's even funnier that you're gonna go on Grinder just to find a friend. That's fucking amazing. So Ben Pernick, thank you so much for coming on today.
yeah, thanks so much for having me.